This is the Dealer Playbook. Hey, what's going on? You're listening to session 78 of the Dealer Playbook podcast, where every single week we deliver creative strategies for you, today's advanced automotive professionals. My name is Michael Cirillo, joined by the man, Robert Wiesman. What's going on?
Hey, man. What's up?
You know, not a lot. Just kidding.
Yeah. Same old, man. First episode of 2016.
Yeah, exactly, man. Dude, I don't know about you, but 2016, like, we were approaching the new year with just, I mean, speaking for myself, but I know just from the entire team here, we just kind of felt like, holy crap, dude, 2016 is going to be so massive. We've got so many incredible things that we're working on that you guys will hear about sooner rather than later. But, you know, we've been heads down. I was joking about not having lots to do, man. We are all about creating success and making it happen, as we hope you guys are too that listen into the show. Thanks so much for listening to the show. We've gone right through 2014, right through 2015, and now we are, you know, playing bigger and better moves for 2016. And, you know, that's really what we want to talk to you guys today about is, you know, 5 things that you can do in 2016 or whatever year you're listening to this to really level up. And, you know, as Robert and I sat and talked about what we wanted to share with you, a lot of these things just really resonated and, you know, bring with them a lot of hope, because if you execute on them, they're going to absolutely work. So we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we are going to jump into the 5 things that you need to do this year to just be like, just explode like a freak of nature. Here we go. All right, so here we go. You know, as I said, I mean, we've got these 5 things that if you apply and if you implement are going to help you level up like a freak of nature in this new year. I love what you said, Robert, in our one of our last episodes. He's like, you know, Robert says, dude, make tomorrow your new year. So it really doesn't matter when you are listeing to this.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
And if anybody, you know, and in these 5 things, if there's some of them you're doing, that's great. Then start adding some more of them. If you're not if you're doing all of them, well, maybe you can scale those up. And if you're doing none of them, we'll start with one of them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's you know, and a lot of these are going to feel like, you know, the tone is going to kind of be like, dude, seriously, it's 2016. How do you not have this yet? But our hope is that, you know, for those of you that are doing this stuff, like Robert, you just said, it's like, hey, well, take it to the next level. What can you add on top of it? If you've already got processes and procedures based around some of the things we're going to share with you today, it's about going one layer deeper. And I think that's something, you know, traditionally that we, you know, as human beings, as creatures, we kind of tend to forget, is like thinking and going one layer deeper than where we're at. We kind of get complacent. So keep that in mind. These are the tone of these things that we share with you is like, seriously, if you don't have it, when are you going to have it? It's like me, I'm the kind of guy where it's like, okay, we're already 1% done with 2016. I'm like, if I'm not going to implement these things today and just like freaking dominate, then my year's already over, I feel like. So make today the day. We're going to just jump in here. Number 1, okay, again, it's 2016. You have to have a website. I mean, we talk a lot about websites, and it's because they're an absolute essential tool for you to expand your reach.
Yeah, I mean, it's 24/7. What do we say? What's your dad, his famous saying is, it's your salesperson that doesn't sleep.
Yeah, I mean, think about this, 24/7, 365. You know, you could pay $20,000 a year for a website. And I'm not saying you have to, but you could pay $20,000, $30,000 a year for a website. And that's still the cheapest, least expensive, and potentially most powerful salesperson that you're going to have, because it never turns off. It never gets paid overtime. But just like having an employee, it's all about what you put into it. I mean, I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh, dude, my employees aren't working. They're not doing this. They're not doing that. Well, how have you empowered them? And the same goes for your website. How have you created, or what are you presenting on your website? What kind of information to help you or help it empower you to be able to expand your reach?
this is for that goes down the line too, from dealer, full dealerships to dealer groups to individual sales professionals. Most dealerships today, I'm going to say that are players, they all, of course, have a website. Could they use some work and some creativity and some juice in that website? Absolutely. But salespeople in general should be, if they're serious about this business, they need to get serious about their online presence. And because 90% of the purchases are starting with a Google search. Well, this is your opportunity to get in front of them and wine and dine and build that relationship 24 hours a day.
Yeah, I mean, think about it this way. I what we've observed is that a lot of people, they don't treat internet site visitors and leads, they don't treat them the same way they do as if they were in store, in person. But that needs to change. You need to absolutely treat site visitors and internet leads the exact same way you would treat an in-store visitor. You need to show them the same level of hospitality. You need to be as willing to give them the information that they're looking for as if they were in your store.
Provide them an experience.
Exactly. And I mean,
enjoyable, familiar, comfortable.
Exactly. And I mean, it's the no-brainer thing. It's 2016. People are going online to look for information. And for some reason up to this point, in mass, okay, I mean, I'm speaking generally, but in mass here, we feel like, no, we're not going to provide information because that's going to give a more compelling reason for this individual to come and visit my brick and mortar. That's absolutely not the case. It actually works the other way. When people can't find the information they're looking for, they don't trust you. So empower your salesperson.
They qualify themselves.
Yeah, they qualify themselves.
Yeah.
And I know
which
there's
could be a good and a bad thing, but in this case, It's a bad thing. Yeah.
That's what I was just going to say. Yeah, there's people that'll have varying opinions on this. What we've observed is that because people are showing intent by going online to search for information, just give it to them. Get out of the customer's way by giving them what they're looking for.
Yeah. And this is going to segue right into number 2, but you make sure that the website is not the biggest problem that I see. And come on, I see salespeople websites from all over, is that they're nothing more than an online like brochure business card. It's no resource, which kind of segues into what number 2 is what will make that site more than just an online business card or brochure.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, number 2, publish regularly. And we look at people's websites all the time. And I mean, maybe it's your own website. When's the last time you updated it? And I'm not talking about the slider, the OEM mandated slider, banner, special type stuff, but I'm talking about like actually taking the time, create a new page, creating new blog posts, getting information out on your site. That's one part of it. That's kind of the segue piece. But I mean, there's also the social piece. I mean, it's about interacting with and building a following and kind of just getting yourself known in your community. I mean, Robert, I mean, you're a perfect example of the powerful results that can come from putting yourself out there in the community. And I mean, as that example, I mean, you did it without taking fresh ups off the floor.
Yeah. And when it comes to publishing regularly, and I was doing that and on different channels too, and not just digitally, even like I was writing in the newspaper, like the local newspaper, like once a week, and then also was on like the morning drive, like talk radio. And like these people and most of these small town, off market, markets, to say, they have so much opportunity because those people are dying for content, and if you're a professional and you can, lay out something that has value that to people about like getting their car ready for winter or about how to get more life out of your car, something that the community would have valuable, man, that does wonders for the status of your brand, no doubt.
And the other thing that came to my mind when you were talking about this, I mean, Gary Vee recently was talking about, he was actually doing a live Facebook broadcast and he was talking about Snapchat. One of the comments he made really stood out to me, which aligns with what you and I talk about all the time. He was saying, who cares how many followers and how many likes and all those sorts of things that you get on social media? Like that shouldn't be the focus, especially if you haven't figured out how to just leverage the 2 people that follow you or the 5 people that follow you or whatever. And I feel like that's kind of the same thing we're talking about here. I mean, you could have been in a town, a city of 5 million people. You could have been in a town like a lot of dealers throughout, United States and Canada, where there's like, 2,000 people or 10,000 people in their community. And, our mindset is like, oh, we need to expand our reach because we're never going to be able to do business unless we reach the bigger town 40 minutes down the road or an hour down the road. And my opinion is you need to get so active and publish so frequently and be everywhere so that the people in your community first know who you are, so that you just like absolutely crush that market. Because it'd be naive to think that you're going to be able to expand your reach to a bigger city if you haven't figured out how to not be obscure in the smaller area that you live in and do business.
Yeah, you gotta be the big fish swimming around that local smaller pond before you can be the bigger fish of a bigger pond. Absolutely.
Yeah, exactly. And and that goes along with, something that you did quite regularly. And some of your stuff I still watch and reference back to, but that's video.
Yeah, that's that's because it's, you create a video that's answering a question or a problem or something that the customers you're looking to target are asking at one stage or another of the buying process. You do it one time, you put it up online the right way. The power of video and the way it's able to build trust and relationships better because, they kind of see you and it's the next best thing to a face-to-face. Like, that's all true. And what happens is they find you when they need to find you. It costs you no money and took no real time to create this little piece of content. You put it on there, but when the person that's looking for it finds it, like, it's going to pay off. And people aren't they're so engaged. Like, nobody is more engaged than somebody that clicks on a video to watch it. All right. You don't click on the wrong video.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
They ask Google the question, boom, it's right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you bring up a good point with that, because I know a lot of people are struggling to know what to make videos about. And you just said it. It's like you ask Google a question. So, think about how people are going online and asking questions. That's really the basis of a search. Answer
anybody
their
that's been in the car business for more than 30 days, all you do day in and day out, think about it, is you answer questions. You answer questions via email, via text, via phone calls, via in-person, via, new prospects, older prospects, and then back in your service department, they're getting asked more questions than you. So you could just sit back there and listen to some, and get some ideas.
Yeah, exactly. And now for those of you that are saying, man, we hear so much about video, these guys are just telling me stuff that I already know. You need to stop and ask yourself, okay, but am I doing video? Because that's really the whole point of this. Everything we talk about today is going to come across as that we know this already. But really the next step is, but are you doing it? Are you regular with video? Are you regularly publishing? Do you have that website? And if you do have that website, are you extremely thrilled and happy with it? I'll tell you from my own personal experience.
Are you working it?
Are you working it? I'll tell you from my own personal experience with my own website. Robert, how many different versions of my website have I shown you in the last 6 months? I've just been, constantly letting it evolve. And when new ideas come, I'm figuring out how I can implement them into my own web presence. I blog, 2-3 times a week. And I'm not saying that to overwhelm anybody, but I'm saying, like, if you already have a website and if you're already doing some level of publishing, or maybe you're not doing video yet and you're getting sick of hearing everyone talk about video, go to the next level. That's what this is all about. This year can be your biggest year ever by executing, by taking the action. So this brings us to number 3. This is a topic that, we have talked about so often on the show. We've had guests on the show, even recently, as recent as episode 75, we've had people on the show talking about this. And that is, this thing in the business. And this is kind of notorious for any sales individual. They tend to shoot for the transaction as fast as they can. And what we say, what we submit is, this year, focus on building the relationship of trust first. The transaction will follow. Dwayne Cummings was on the show, and he was telling him about a really phenomenal experience that he had. It was kind of grim, but also very inspiring at the same time. His whole concept is, focus on the human being and their needs first. And he actually had an individual that came into the store who wanted to buy a car, who seemed like, they were maybe a little bit distracted, or their thoughts were preoccupied somewhere else or whatever. So he decided to like put the car transaction sales process on hold and just kind of talk to this individual. What he finds out later is that individual was going to buy a car so they could use it to commit suicide. And I'm not saying that, I mean, obviously that's a really extreme example, but Dwayne chose to take the be good person approach. And look what came from it. What did you say in that episode, Robert?
Most salespeople would have been like, well, sir, listen, you certainly don't want that car because that safety rating is so high that you wouldn't be able to get the job done, So
yeah, it's like, just let's get another one on the board. Yeah. We've even had, the Art of Charm, talking about Art of Charm. Yeah, we've had him on the show, and he talks about how everyone is transactional based in the relationship. And in that episode, we talked about how we know people who the whole premise of the relationship is transactional, and how like time after time this individual gets burned and people turn on him and he turns on people and all those sorts of things. And I mean, that's what happens when you shoot for the transaction. But we know, and we talk about in this business all the time, repeat and referral business. Well, in my opinion, the best way to get a repeat and a referral is to build a relationship of trust with the individual and focus on that. So that's something that you should focus on. Now, if you're thinking, how do I do that? Well, that's exactly what you got to figure out. I would be putting so much research and study and all that kind of stuff into things like strength finders and personality testing and figuring out people and observing and reading and doing anything I could to figure out what can I do, like at my core, how can I be a good individual and how can I enrich and enhance this person's life?
Just being interested in them as well, too. Something that simple can really help.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep. Moving on to number 4. I mean, this is another one of your specialties, but that's, make this year the time that you finally get your offline, marketing material together. Like, get it.
Yeah. Not as spotty, inconsistent. Like, figure out, nail down a couple things that you want to use as offline prospecting, and things to get your name out that are creative outside the box, and like keep a consistent flow of them. Hell, man, this stuff's so cheap, and the more you buy, the more the more you spend, the more you get.
Yeah, I mean, something more like Vistaprint, for Pete's sake. If you haven't heard of Vistaprint by now, there are like so many different things that you can get printed through them. They deliver them so fast, and the quality is really, really good. But I mean, give us some examples, Robert, of some things that you used that worked really well for you.
Stuff that was great for me was online. It was online. It was a like little brochure. Now, it wasn't like the trifold or cheesy stuff like that. What I did was I had like a greeting card. It was a blank greeting card that from the printer, and I had them print like full color with image and stuff on the one side and the other side, and then it folded in half like a little booklet. And it was a brochure. It was almost like the about page from a website. Then it had testimonials. It had some other information. I gave them that in lieu of a business card because, like, that's one way to remember. I mean, if they're stopping at dealerships, they got a couple business cards. Which one really stands out, and is giving them information and really showing that everybody wants to work with a professional, right? Well, what looks more professional in that scenario?
Yeah, no doubt.
Who looks like they're on for the in for the long haul out of those two,
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and isn't that, I mean, this is such a good thing too, because I mean, this day and age, as we get more technologically advanced, as cell phones, are capable of doing more, and we've talked about websites.
Less of that stuff, that physical stuff is happening. Yeah, so that's an easy, inexpensive throwback, that can get you in there and make you stand out. Same with postcards. I see a lot of people online in the groups talking about ideas for mailers and like the mail that like they're sending letters and regular envelopes, stuff like that. It's like, man, like I rarely open up an envelope, and because your bills don't come like that, anything important. And I know it's, where do we divvy up our mail at? Over the trash can. You know what I mean? And a good postcard with a good graphic image that you know, the message is on the front. It has some kind of marketing and branding and a message there. And then you do a handwritten on the back. Man, you get like 500 or 1,000 of them for like $40. And you just send them out with every, you know, have one for every type of scenario, like someone that didn't buy and left. Boom. While they're on their way out, you're writing them that postcard, drop it in the mail. People you talk to on the phone, people you've talked to via email, people that have bought from you in the past, you know, anything.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and that really is the concept. It's like, you know, I can tell you from my own experience, every time I get something in the mail, I have to put it in my hands and I have to look at it to determine whether or not it's going in that trash bin or sorry, the recycling bin, you know. But the fact is that it's there. It's not as easy. I mean, it lengthens the process of determining whether or not I can hit the delete button. You know, like I can get a spammy looking email with a crappy subject line, and all I have to do is report spam or click delete. But with mail, I got to actually go to my mailbox. I have to open it up. I have to put the envelope in my hand. I have to look at it and determine if it's worth my time. So
way higher engagement.
Way higher engagement. Yeah. I mean, what's the value of getting your brand or your dealership or whatever in the hands of an individual? Yeah. So the last thing we want to share with you is something that
creative outside the box. Sorry, but just back on that.
Yeah.
Creative, get outside the box. Don't do what everybody else is doing. See what everybody else is doing and do it different.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, and that's really everything we talk about, all the strategies that we share, all the strategies that our guests share, whether it's offline or online. We're talking about leveraging the aspects of, you know, both online and offline that people aren't doing. And I mean, I'll tell you what, I've yet to receive a really compelling offer, postcard, whatever in the mail from a car dealership. It's always the like, hey, here's the fake key and come on down. You know, we got balloons for the kids and if your key works. It's spam. I hate that crap. I hate that crap. And I always think, how much do the dealership spend on this versus, like you said, 1,000 postcards for $40?
Yeah. And you can split those crazy up to a couple different messages and you could do a sequence there where each one has some value or something, you know, like tell a story over a few of them. You know, people remember that.
Love it. Okay, so the last thing we want to share with you is kind of goes hand in hand with the most crucial element of all of this, which is actually doing it, right? And that is to skill up. It's time to expand your knowledge, but more importantly than just becoming a walking encyclopedia of skills and whatever, it's like to actually implement and it's to actually execute. I say all the time, knowledge isn't power until you know what to do with it and until you execute on it. And so this year, it's about skilling up. It's about taking things to the next level. It's about taking a serious interest in yourself. I mean, everything we've talked about is an investment in yourself. But I mean, this is the year. You can have the best postcard and you can have the best website, but when push comes to shove and when that in-person interaction or over the phone or email interaction happens and you just kind of suck at what you do, I mean, the whole thing falls apart. So skilling up to me is kind of the foundation of everything. It's not just skilling up, but I would submit it's like sequential learning, step by step. Here's what I need to do. I mean, you know, we've had Grant Cardone on the show, episode 15 and 16, where he talks about this. It's about how you're learning and how you need to learn things in sequence and you need to follow a recipe. I talk about that in my book. It's about, you know, success being a recipe and placing the ingredients in the right sequence to get the intended outcome. I really think this year's got to be the year that you take your skill set to the next level. If it's, man, you know what? As a sales professional, I am not super good at reading people. Dude, skill up. Learn everything you can about that. If it's like, I don't know how to close that well, or I don't know how to overcome objections, skill up on overcoming those objections and figuring out how to make it your own, how to make it unique to you.
Yeah, just get prepared, you know, for everything. Same with marketing, like, and looking outside of stuff that's in automotive. We sometimes get inside the box when it comes to where we're going to listen, where we're going to learn. Yeah. And there's so much outside that it applies in business and with people in a whole, not just shoppers that are buying houses compared to cars or buying a TV compared to a vehicle. You know what I mean? So, and just commit to it, and your strengths, like what you're strong on, make sure you're still sharpening those up too. Like don't let those just, get stagnant. Keep going to the batting cage and the heavy bag, and developing your strengths even to make them even stronger.
Yeah, I mean, and really, it's like we talk about, we've talked about this on the show before. You have to understand that the automotive consumer is every other type of consumer as well. They're not just exclusive. They actually exist outside of this industry.
And they're more often than not consuming other products than they are this.
Yeah, absolutely. And so why wouldn't you look outside the car business to expand your knowledge and your skill set? In fact, spoiler alert, I mean, everything that Robert and I talk about and the guests that we get on the show are people who have achieved success in other industries. And that's because they provide key insights into consumers and into their behavior and into people. And so you need to be looking outside the car business. Now, don't get us wrong. There are lots of phenomenal subject matter experts within the car space, but you need to be reaching out. You need to be looking outside of the car industry and saying, okay, what's happening outside? What's going on? What's resonating with people? What kind of strategies are working? And you need to figure out ways to make that work inside of your niche or niche. I mean, look at Gary Vaynerchuk. I would be shocked if people on this show, you listening, and I'd be shocked if you didn't know who Gary V is. I mean, he seems to be very, very popular inside the car space, and extremely popular outside of the auto industry. But I mean, there's truth to what he says, and truth is truth. It works everywhere. It's just a matter of fine-tuning it and honing it in and making it work for what you do specifically. Guys, there you go, man. Those are the 5 things that we think are super important for you to take 2016 or whatever year you're listening to this to the next level. Just a quick recap here.
It doesn't have to be new information for the information to be valuable too. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
So don't overlook that and do what we tend to do so much in this business is over consume information and then just make everything harder than what it really has to be and more complicated for sure.
Yeah, undoubtedly. I mean, look, I know some of you listening in are going, "Oh man, here's 5 more things," and you're like piling it on top. And no, I mean, this is a matter of, hey, here are some things that we know will work. Now it's up to you to gauge where these fit into the priority thing. But I think, we feel like these are the 5 fundamental things that you could be doing this year to level up. So that means that you might have to look at the other things you feel are on that big pile, that altar of things that you got to do, and determine which ones you just got to scrap and which things you're going to move towards that are going to help you get to your definition of success faster. So I'm going to just quickly recap these, and then, man, I'll turn it over to you to close this thing down. So the first one we talked about was website. Again, guys, 2016, you got to have a website. Everybody's going online searching for information, which leads into number 2, which is that you got to publish regularly. And a really easy concept to follow that we talked about is to take the questions that people are asking and produce the answers, whether it's through video, social posts, blogs on your website, content pages. You determine what it is that you got to do. But I mean, frequently asked questions you'll never go wrong with. The third thing we talked about is how you need to just practice being a good person. So focus on building a relationship of trust with an individual, figuring out how you can enrich and enhance their life, which, side note, in parentheses, I would submit happens in number 2 when you focus on, conveying value through what you publish. And don't shoot for the transaction rate out of the gates. Just focus on nurturing a relationship first. The transaction will be the natural result. Number 4 was getting your offline materials together. So brochures, postcards. It's about being active, increasing the engagement of your target audience in creative ways. And like you said, Robert, I mean, it's such a big opening, a big opportunity these days to start embedding yourself in the areas that people are starting, like people in the business are starting to forget about. Everyone's going online, but people still check their mail. Get into the hands of these potential consumers. And then the last thing we talked about was skilling up, taking your skill set and your education to the next level. All right, man, that's it.
And That's it, man. That's episode 78, first one of 2016. We're pumped, man, to go through another year with you guys here at the Dealer Playbook. So we'll have this list at the show notes, like always, at the dealerplaybook.com/78. Make sure to check us out on Facebook. I'm loving the reviews, by the way. We're getting some killer reviews on iTunes. Man, listen, if you haven't done that yet and you want to throw us one of those, that would be awesome. I'd consider it a favor, definitely.
Dude, you know what? Let's test something in the spirit of marketing. We would love a review on iTunes so much from you that everybody that sends one, all you have to do is submit the review on iTunes, share it on Facebook, and send us an email. Send it to robert@thedealerplaybook.com. So again, submit the review on iTunes, screen grab it, post it on Facebook, and then send it to robert@thedealerplaybook.com. Everybody that does that's going to get a Dealer Playbook t-shirt. We'll ship that out to you. I would love to just hear from you guys, send you out a t-shirt, and it's a quick and easy thing that you can do to get a DPB t-shirt and be part of DPB Nation. Again, guys, thank you so much for listening to the Dealer Playbook. Until next time.
Next week. See you then.